Well, good morning. You join me here in session on Mill Lodge, just a real impromptu, spur of the moment trip. I ended up in hospital with really severe diverticulitis. Did a day session last week and really it just was too much for me. So I decided to come somewhere where I could take the barrow, travel quite lightly and, try a night and see how that goes. So we're here, it's about 8:30, 8:45, and it's just good to actually get the rods out. I've picked 3 spots that have fished before in this lake that have done bites in the past, so we'll see what that does and we'll see what the day brings. Now, to be honest, it is a bit of an interesting day. We're due, as you can probably already see from the light levels, it's very bright. We're due bright weather, highish pressure, not really ideal for daytime bites, but we'll see if anything sort of materializes from that. I have seen a few fish even walking around, cruising on the surface. Even at this time in the morning, there I've just had a little beep. It could be weed. There has been bits of weed just running over the line. The rods have only been out about 15-20 minutes, and even with sinking the line, floating weed is taking them out pretty quickly. I'm hopeful something will materialise. It hasn't fished that well. Looking at the sign-in book and talking to the bailiff this morning, he has said really there hasn't been a great deal out, but there has been a few fish caught. It is one of the easier waters, so to speak, on the Carp Society ticket here. We'll see if we can even wrangle something out, but hopefully there's fish up for a feed. Really very simple tactics. I have my ever trusty Decade Specials 365s, one out in each colour, yellow, pink and white, and those are just fished on a little Ronnie rig. And different to what I usually do, I'm using the crimpable stiff coated braid material. I've used that in the last couple of sessions and I kind of like the way it sits along the bottom. I am sort of steaming it straight, putting extra bits of putty along it, and that seems to on other venues do the biz. So 3 of those out, hand sharpened hooks. An interesting one, I used for a long time the J Precision hand sharpened hooks. No issues with them, they are really good hooks. Sort of a hook a fish because they go blunt after one. I'd seen at one of the angling shows, the northern show that I took part in, that the IB hooks guys were sort of getting a good write-up from some of the anglers that I was talking to. So I bought one of the little kit packs that has 100 hooks in the hook box. I'm sure if it's about somewhere, I'll show you it later in the vlog, but I've those out to see what they're like. Really not sure on the old sharpened hook versus packet sharp. For me, a heavy enough lead to sink that hook in is usually enough. I would find if you're using a lighter lead, maybe that would be an edge. If you're using a heavy enough lead and the fish sucks that in, to me, I think generally you should be okay. But if you have an opinion on that, please do let me know in the comments what you feel is your hook preference in terms of packet sharp or hand sharpened. I have been using curve hooks because I'm using those Ronnies. I fish them as a wafter as well, so that's sitting just on the deck, with that wafting above on a little bait screw with the extra ring on it for flexibility and maneuverability, and then the stopper bead stopping a couple of mil before the point of the hook, and that seems to be something that does pretty good bites. I've cut down a line aligner and slid that on, and then a little blob of putty down to a shortened anti-tangle sleeve, and that's crimped either end, nice and neat, and no issues with that. It generally does the business. Usually I would use the fluorocarbon bit, but I just sort of thought on this session I'd do it differently, and that's where we're at. But fingers crossed something materialises. I'm literally just fishing the morning, and then what I'm going to do is around about 11, 12 maximum time, I'm going to reel in, go down to the shops, get a few bits and pieces. If it's nice, maybe flick a few floaters about, and then just rest the swim, bait the spots that I'm going to fish tonight, and then put the rods out and see if that makes any difference to the style of fishing that we're doing. Well, that didn't take long. The rod was only on the buzzer, and I hadn't even changed it from newt, and it rocked off with this lovely common. I haven't weighed it yet, but I'm imagining in the double figures anyway, so happy days. I've been here since early morning, looked about, rested the swim, put a bit of bait in, and literally just dropped the rig on its head and rattled off with this lovely common. So really made up with this fish after the last couple of weeks I've had. This just really makes up for it. Let's slip him back. Well, that escalated quickly. My plan was to rest the swim this afternoon. Went to the shops, come back, bought a box of little cat biscuits, was flicking them up and down the margins and likely looking spots. Fish there cruising about, but just not wanting to feed. Just for ease of access, I hadn't really filmed much of that. I was just, if I'd have got some fish feeding, I probably would have put it on the camera, but it's one of those things. They just weren't up for taking them on the surface. They were just basking in the sunlight. So stuck to my guns, come back to the peg, tidied up, got my rig sorted, got my bait prepped, and around about 4:45, I'd only no sooner put the right hand rod out and it was away. I'd clipped the bobbin on and I went to lift the middle rod to get it sorted, and I looked while the line was sinking, it had went tight and the rod was pulling around to the right hand side, so into a fish, which was nice, and a good testament to those new hooks that I've been talking about earlier. The fish was nailed and really well hooked, so that's given me a bit of confidence. One thing I will say is that IB hook, it's out again. It'll do for another fish, which is really good. I'd found those other hooks, the J Precision hooks, fantastic hooks, razor sharp, but once you'd had one fish, the point was usually burred over and you had to change the hook. So that for me is a plus point. Now we'll see what they're like overnight and in the morning, and if we have something else. But see, to be honest, it's just good to be off the mark after the last couple of weeks of being pretty damn ill. It just feels good to actually get a fish, and you know what, it actually lights your fire to get out and to get fishing. So I'm really pleased with that. Same thing that I showed you earlier, two of those little crimped stiff link that I was using, the coated stiff link braid, out on the spots, and then the third rod was cast out on a solid bag, and I had picked the spot that was up tight against some decaying lilies and a bit of a weed bed. I had seen a couple of fish cruising around that sort of area earlier, so it seemed like a likely looking spot. Funny enough, the rod that did go, it did produce from where I'd seen fish sitting above on the surface. Anyway, when those fish cleared off, I went round, because it's just off the side of a bridge, an access point between this part of the lake and the other part of the lake. This is the front lake and the other lake is the back lake. It's interconnected by a series of bridges and tunnels, and the fish use those as likely patrol routes, so it's always handy to have a rod in that position, and that's kind of what we've done for today. Well, a very simple baiting approach on this session. As you can see from the bucket here, I have two types of boilie. I have 12mm plum and 12mm Vitalac. Those are crumbed and crushed as well. I also have two types of pellet. I have the Scretton's winter feed pellets and small halibut pellets in there as well. And then the RG Baits Vitalac liquid food, and that's pretty much it. I'm tying up mesh bags, putting it over the hook, and then sending out some of that with it as well. Probably a big cupped handful amount over each rod. Apart from the one with a solid bag, it's just the solid bag with about 12 to 15 of those 12mm boilies catapulted over the spot as well, and that's pretty much it. We'll see what that brings this evening. It's already worked for that first bite, so I'm confident that there's no issues with the bait. The fish are happily taking the bait, so it's just a case of waiting and seeing if anything else wants to feed, and if something else trips up during the hours going in the darkness or overnight, then happy days. Well, the rod's back out, and the same one has went again about, what, 2 hours later, and it's this lovely little mirror. Give an absolute account for itself. Quality fight, massive run, stripping line even on a slightly tight clutch as well. Really got the heart pounding, and it's the second fish of the session. Really made up with this. Let's get him back and get the rod back out, and I'm hopeful there's time for something else. Happy days. Well, it's the morning after the night before. Nothing to overly report through the main part of the night. As you've probably seen just before bed, I had that lovely mirror, probably just into about double figures, off the same spot, the right hand rod, that first fish come off, an intercept point between two bodies of water with a bridge in between, and it was really a lovely fight. You know, a real full-blooded take as well. It's something to get the heart stopping. But after that, it sort of slowed down. Yesterday there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and the night followed suit, so the temperatures did drop. Nowhere near what they did the night before, that has to be said. You know, it's a lovely crisp spring morning today, but obviously those temperatures getting up into sort of 18-19 degrees yesterday, where we were absolutely baked. I did have around about 4 a.m. Dropped run on that right hand rod again, and what my theory is there is the fish aren't really picking up the hook bait per se. So here's the rig, not the actual rig in question. This is just a multi-rig that I've had in the bag there, and if you imagine that rig and that hook bait there, I'm clipping that on to a mesh bag, okay, and then that's sinking to the bottom. When that mesh bag melts and that fish comes in, you know, that's just a load of pellet ready to be eaten, and I think that's what's happened. The smaller fishes come in, sucked up the pellet, lifted the hook bait, and ran. Now, my theory could be completely defunct, and for all I know, a 20-odd pounder could have come in and ejected that rig. However, with using those little micro pellet, those are 3mm, the chances are that's what's happened. It's been more a nuisance species or a smaller carp. But the rods are back out onto the spots. The right hand rod, it'd be stupid not to put back out onto there. The middle rod I was never happy with last night anyway, which is a strange thing to say because it's a rod that has done me a fish on every session I've been here. But
a guy has moved into the opposite side of the intercept point that I'm fishing. It's a well-known spot, and he's put a rig update in his side, and basically I think those lines coming left and right of that spot have just pushed any fish off wanting to feed there. So what I've done, I've kept the area pretty similar, but I've moved it along probably about 2 rod lengths and then tighter to the bank on my side, and really there it's still within distance of where I was before, but it gives a bit more of an opportunity for fish not to be spooked by too many lines in the water. The third rod I have this morning, since being up, seen a couple of fish show, and I literally just put that over the fish that showed. I had another little solid bag sitting there tied up, so I just, while I was getting the other rods sorted, flicked it out onto the spot. So we'll see if that does anything. I'm literally just giving it a couple of hours this morning to see if anything materializes. Even as that sun comes up, those fish have been basking in the 2 spots that my right hand rod and middle rod are over, so it's only really taking them to dip down 1.5 to 2.5 foot for a feed. So we'll see what the morning brings. I'm going to have a bite to eat, going to have some breakfast, and just continue to watch to see if I see anything. It's another piece of the jigsaw for me. This lake, as I say, would be known as probably the Carp Society's easier of the lakes. That being said, like I said earlier, it hasn't been, completely easy, but it's another piece of that jigsaw puzzle that keeps unlocking, because there, lo and behold, a new spot I've found, and I'm not quite sure how many people fish that exact same. I know they definitely fish the main intercept point that I've used, but the other spot that I've had fish off, I'm not sure how many people would go through the hassle of getting a rig into position there. It's a bit of an awkward chuck. That being said, it's a straight line back to the bank, so maybe it is. It just looks more overlooked than the other spots that are likely spots, and that's the thing. Sometimes on these sessions, it's finding somewhere. Not that the fish are always readily caught. Those banker spots, yes, they do pay off, but if the water has been highly pressured over a set amount of days or weeks, and this venue is fished right round, basically you'd have people here, because it is a shallower lake, it does get hit well in the winter as well. It's well known to produce fish, so because it is fished so much, sometimes those spots that are less likely to be looked upon might be the ones to do, but that's what we've done. And again, this morning those rigs are out. I have 2 yellow Decade 365s and a pink. One of the fish came on a pink, one of the fish came on a yellow. I think the first fish, the bigger one, came on a pink back out on the spot. But again, I'm not that confident that that's the issue. I think the fish have nipped down for a feed. As I showed you yesterday in that bucket, it's mostly crushed and crumbed boilie, micro pellet and pellet, and they're just going down and sucking up all the loose feed and finding the hook bait in between that. But let's wait and see what happens this morning, and hopefully I have something else to show. Well folks, there we go, another one for the cameras this morning. Rod back out about an hour or so, and it absolutely rattled off with this beautiful fully scaled mirror. Absolutely stunning fish, and another fish that's given absolutely unbelievable scrap. So well chuffed with this. Let's get her back. Well, we'll come to finish off really how we started everything. Bright sunshine and high pressure. There hasn't been anything really in the last hour or so, which is really no surprise with the weather format. I did spend a bit of time yesterday going around trying to seize a few opportunities on the surface with fish with no
joy. And to be honest, after having those couple of runs, I'm just keen to get home. Had a delivery of decking left on the driveway, and I built the frame a couple of days ago, so really that calls to get home and get finished. So I think in the next 15 or 20 minutes I'm going to get these rods in and go. I have everything else really packed up onto the barrow ready to go. I'm just allowing the sling and the cradle time to dry on the net. It's been an absolutely brilliant session. Thank you again for following me on this journey in the vlog. If you did enjoy the video, please do subscribe to the channel. It does help, and the best thing you can really do is give the video a like, as that helps promote it and allows others to see it. So check out the rest of the videos on the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one.